Mick Sorby is a name I come across through Richie Horsley. I've known Richie a few years now because he's with we do his books, War Cry Publishing, and I was filming the Lee Duffy Too Far Too Soon documentary, and he was telling me about this kind of friend he knows from Hartlepool who'd had who'd had a couple of incidents with Lee. And I just got talking. I'd done my filming, and Richie said to me, "You should do Mick Sorby's book, you know." And at the time, I was like, he was just a name. I'd never heard of him. And obviously, I got chatting to Fat Cat Production, who are based in Hartlepool. Paul Suggett, who's many of you know him as the crazy guy with the hat who does so much for charity. Lovely guy, Paul. And I was chatting to him, and he said, "Mick Sorby, I know him." He said, "Get him in, for the filming." So I went and filmed Mick anyway, and spent a bit of time with him. And I'd done a bit of research, obviously, because I get a lot of names mentioned, thrown at me, to kind of check out and do books. And the more time I spent with Mick, and the more time I researched him on the Hartlepool forums, it was almost like the full town of Hartlepool just never had a bad word to say about him. Which is quite surprising, really, considering he ran the doors for I don't know, probably not far off 50 years. Yeah, there's a lot of. I spoke to a lot of people in and around, and when I put the feelers out, obviously I'm not from Hartlepool, but when I put the feelers out, people are like, "God, I can't wait to read that." And it just suddenly kind of dawned on me more and more. I thought, you know what, this is a book I've got to do. And obviously he's quite a nice guy as well. It's nice to work with someone. He's very gentlemanly. Like the more I sit with Mick and I speak to him, the more I kind of question myself. I thought, did you really do all that? Because when you sit in his company, and obviously I imagine everyone who's watching this now on the Hartlepool pages, he's an absolute gentleman. But he has been involved with a lot of how can I put it? Skullduggery. Maybe, as Al Capone said, what was it? The quote said, "You get further in life with a gun than a thank you." And, when you spend 50 years on a door in a town such as tough as Hartlepool, or, as hard, you've, probably being polite and well-mannered won't always cut it. So I've sat with Mick. I'm going to be. I had wanted to kind of really get on with it this week, but a few things had. But I'm going to be Operation Sorby next week, and I've sat with him for hours. I've got it all on my dictaphone, all done on my recordings, and the book's going to be called Hartlepool, Born and Bred, Mick Sorby, and he's a guy who grew up, had a terrible life, physically abused by a horrendous stepfather, and just basically he just come in and started working on the doors as like a 17-year-old young kid who could have a bit of a fight, and it was easy money, and I suppose he was quite good at it, and he just did it to provide for his family. He was never out there to try and be some kind of hard case, but obviously a lot of people in Hartlepool know him for that. He could have a dance or whatever, shall we say. But yeah, I'm going to be looking to release this book February/March in the new year. And yeah, it's going to be very Hartlepool. It's going to be all the names, it's Mick's story from growing up to being bullied, to kind of going the way through his life, to, many of you will know he hasn't been very well lately. And the stories in there, he's come across your Lee Duffys, very quite close to Viv Graham. Was supposed to be with him actually. I think he was with him like 4 days before he died, and Viv was saying, Can you come up? I've got a bit of trouble. And obviously I think that, the day after he was going to be with him, and he was shot New Year's Eve. And there's lots of faces, that Ernie Buick, Billy Robinson, all these kind of faces that Mick's kind of your Dave Garside, which he's worked along with, because obviously Mick was in control of most of the doors in Hartlepool. If I've got that wrong, then yeah, I'm sure I haven't. But he controlled a lot of doors in Hartlepool, and from the feedback I get on Mick Sorby, it's just, it's literally everybody likes him. And I've joined a lot of Hartlepool groups lately, and I've kind of put his little chats on and little bits like this, and it's literally, which is quite unusual. Obviously, I do a lot of books on controversial figures, and they're not even though some of them can support registered charities, then everyone's not a fan of true crime or my genre. But I wouldn't say Mick's. Yes, he's been to prison for the Calvin Singh shooting, and but I wouldn't actually class Mick Sorby as a professional criminal. He was a guy, kind of did what he did for a living, but he wasn't out robbing banks or robbing drug dealers like some of the characters I've done on. And I just find him a really, really pleasant guy. Really easy to work with. Every time I've had a chat with him, he's been here. And I'm looking forward to releasing. And I think absolutely, from the feedback I've got from the town of Hartlepool, I think this book will be big. I know Richie Horsley, who's kindly done the forward. He's a big reader, Richie, and he said, he kind of was telling me the name, and Mick Sorby's name never meant anything until I'd obviously Googled him and realised how well known he was and how well perceived he is also. So Richie's kindly done the forward, and there's a bit of humour in this book as well. Richie, the first meeting he ever met Mick, I think he popped in his head. He popped his head in the door what Mick was on. I think Richie was a young kid, and Mick popped his head out and went, "Hey, you, fuck off." And that was Richie Horsley. Obviously, everyone knows who Richie Horsley is. So that, and they're quite close. But obviously, Mick was the older generation. I think Richie's in his 50s, 50, 55 or something like that, where Mick's, I think he's about 72. I hope I haven't got that wrong. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be really starting to really put this book together, guys. So, yeah, it's going to be, well, the book, the clue's in the name, Hartlepool, born and bred, Mick Sorby. And, yeah, it's, obviously, I'm quite known for the Middlesbrough, the books, but they're all finished now. What's Hartlepool? 12 miles away from Middlesbrough, I think. But it's funny because when I was growing up in like the amateur boxing scene, and there was a Newcastle, there was a Sunderland, there was a Middle, I always found Hartlepool kids to be kind of the toughest. Like in my opinion, in my head, Hartlepool's always been the hotbed of North East boxing. The kids just seem to be harder and tougher there, and you've got your gyms, the Manor, your Hartlepool Headlands, the Hartlepool Catholic Club, Hartlepool Boys Welfare. I'm sure there's a few others I haven't mentioned. But it's a big, big boxing town, and there's been some really good fighters come up there, like the Feeneys, Alan Temple, James Rooney, too many to mention. But yeah, I think Mick's well perceived by everyone I've ever spoke to, really. I think there was one, which you always get that. I get one an hour. But there's, when you go on YouTube and that, you put yourself in the limelight, and you couldn't work on the doors for 50 years and not have, you've got to have had one enemy, otherwise he wouldn't have been doing his job. But the Mick Sorby's book is going to be getting put together December, January, February. We'll maybe have it out back end of February, early March, but it's one I'm really, really looking forward to. I've got to know Mick. and his friend Steve, they've come over a few times, and I'm a big fan. He's absolute gentleman, and yeah, I know without a shadow of a doubt, me and my publishers, we've sat back and we've looked at it and thought the interest in it has been really, really good. I've got a lot of new likes on my page. I think 29 and since last night, all people from Hartlepool, and that's obviously down. It's nothing to do with me. It's down to people wanting to follow the story of Mick Sorby's book. So, Mick Sorby, Hartlepool, born and bred, is going to be coming in the new year, guys. Published by Warcry Publishing. Follow the page Jamie Boyle Author if anyone's watching this on YouTube, and Warcry Publishing. And yeah, it's going to pull out, it's all about the history of Hartlepool, all the old names, I suppose. If you're from Hartlepool, obviously, you might even be in it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to in the next week or so to really just put my headphones on and just, because I've got it all there. We've got half of it typed up, and I've got another 11 chapters on my dictaphone. So I'm going to be basically getting stuck into that. So Mick Sorby, Hartlepool, born and bred, with Jamie Boyle and Warcry Publishing, is coming very soon. Don't forget to click and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for your support. God bless.